Hey everyone, how we all doing today? My name is Richard Taylor, and this is Final Cut Pro Radio TV Live. So we got Final Cut Pro 10.4.9, which I've been talking about all summer. A lot of people have been talking about that specifically. It has some great features in it. Some really great features in it. There's plenty of YouTube tutorials out there. There's a dozen different places you can go watch the tutorials. I'm actually going to do a few tutorials myself, but I'm not going to cover the obvious stuff. I am not going to cover the stuff that everybody else has covered. I look for little places that I can cover things that I'm interested in that I haven't seen covered anywhere else. So look for those. Maybe I'll get one out next week. So along with all the great features of Final Cut Pro 10.4.9, we got a lot of bugs. I've seen a dozen or more bug reports. Now, all the bug reports are not necessarily accurate. You have a couple. Jari Ininen, hello from Helsinki, Finland. How you doing, Jari? Great. I'm glad you could join us here today. Have you seen any bugs, Jari? Are you using 10.4.9? Most people are. I'm using it on Catalina. I like it on Big Sur a lot. However, Big Sur does not support, there's 4 apps that I use all the time that aren't supported on Big Sur. Hedge, I use Hedge. Little Snitch, which is an internet safety thing. Ecamm, this app that I'm using right now to stream live, and Sound Source, which is my main Mac control panel to get sound. None of those apps are working on Big Sur yet, so I won't switch over to Big Sur full time until I get those apps on Big Sur. Let me just turn this mic down a little bit. There we go. Spencer Lewis, hello from Philadelphia. Good old Philadelphia on the east coast of the USA. It's just north. It's about 90 minutes from where I live. I've been to Philly several times. I actually did sound there one time for a reggae band. So, we got a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about some tips for 10.4.9. If you have any tips, put them in the chat, either on Facebook, YouTube, or Periscope. Or if you have any bug reports, you can also post them there as well. Yari says, all fine here with 10.4.9, and I have lots and lots of third-party plugins. So Yari, if you are doing fine with third-party plugins, how come I'm seeing so many reports of third-party plugins with issues? Even from Motion VFX, they posted a document specifically about problems with 10.4.9. I'm not saying all the problems that I'm seeing with 10.4.9 are 100% reliable. User error. That's one of the main things. When you upgrade, people are making mistakes. They don't know how to use the app properly. Number 2 is some third-party plugins might not be working in Final Cut Pro 10.4.9. And the third is it's a genuine bug. It's a genuine bug. We're going to go over some of those bugs, and we're going to do some tips for Final Cut Pro 10.4.9. So basically, I'm excited about it. I think that the Final Cut Pro team did a fantastic job. My favorite things are, of course, the Proxy Workflow, the ability to make a proxy-only library. Like when I worked with Brad Olson, I worked with him. I was a co-editor on Off the Tracks, the documentary. When I was working with him, we had libraries that we put back and forth. that we exchange, and then we just exchange XML files for the current update. Let me just do this one little bit thing. Yes, here we go. So, yeah, so if I had had that, then it would have been a lot better. It's very cool. Yari says, I keep my plugins updated plus reset the preferences with every update. So in order to reset the preferences in Final Cut Pro, you hold down the Option and Command key. When you launch Final Cut Pro, it deletes the preferences and puts a brand new set of Final Cut Pro preferences in. It also, I haven't checked in 10.4.9, but in 10.4.8 and beyond, it placed all your preferences on your desktop. I don't know if 10.4.9 still does that or not. There's your first tip. It used to place the preferences on the desktop. I have not checked. Somebody check that if they get a chance and see if it still places your preferences on the desktop. So you don't actually lose your preferences. It just makes a brand new set for you. So this is Final Cut Pro Radio HQ in the backyard. It's very sunny today. Very, very nice fall day. I'm going to have to mow the grass again. I mow it once a week this time of the year. I have a 0-turn riding lawnmower. It goes very fast. And I can get the bulk of the lawn mowing done in a couple hours. So it's not too bad. So let's start with some tips. Final Cut Pro Radio Live, TV Live versus just Final Cut Pro Radio, which is a podcast. Final Cut Pro 10, 10.4.9, tips and bugs. Let's do the tips first. First off, how many people have I seen before updating any app, but especially something that's important, Final Cut Pro 10, backup your Final Cut Pro 10 application and back up your Final Cut Pro libraries. Number one, that's the first thing you should be doing. For this is an example. When I first launched 10.4.9, your library miscellaneous stuff 2020 must be updated to work with this version of Final Cut Pro. You have to decide right then and there if you want to go forward and update your library to the new version of Final Cut, or if you want to keep the old version. Now, from what I understand, Final Cut places a version of your library in the movies folder where it keeps all your archives and all your updates. That's what I understand, from what I understand. I haven't tested that system because I use backups for Final Cut Pro to make my own manual backups in Final Cut Pro. So choose at that point if you're going to go forward or go backwards. Let me just see here. One of the main things, this is one of the things that I really like about the new version of Final Cut Pro. Look at all of those. Let me pull that up here. Look at all of those options for your proxies. Not only can you create, let me see if that's, there we go. Not only can you create H.264 proxies now, which everybody knows about, which is fantastic. Everybody's been requesting that for a while. Look at all the sizes you have. You have 4 H.26 sizes, 100%, 50%, 25, 12.5. You also have 4 ProRes proxy sizes now. People may not realize that. You also have the same choices for ProRes proxy. 100%, which we did not have before, 50%, 25%, and 12.5%. So there's 8 different proxy sizes, 8 different proxies you can make with Final Cut Pro now. 4 in ProRes, and 4 is H.264. Now the H.264, we still do not have any way to set the data rate. We don't have any way to do that, but that's okay. Listen, that's all right. The frame sizes are fantastic for the Final Cut Pro team to put that in. Everybody is really, really enjoying that. I know I am. I've been playing around with it, the Proxies, more than anything. So let's go here. Here is the other thing you can do with Final Cut Pro now with 10.4.8. You can include the media. You can make a lean library now, right? You can make a lean library without media. You can make it with the original media, optimized media, proxy media. And your media destination in the library, copy media stored in external locations, et cetera, et cetera. But you can now make a Final Cut Pro library without media. If two different editors have the media, you can now send a Final Cut Pro library back and forth without the media. When the second person launches the library, you have to link it up to wherever they have it stored on their local hard drive. So that's another fantastic feature of the new version of Final Cut. Final Cut Library Manager 3.7.1. Let's get that going. Let me see how. Here we go. 3.7.1 is out and it works with Final Cut Pro 10.4.9. If you don't have Final Cut Library Manager, I recommend it. It's one of the apps that I use. There's about 5 or 6, there's probably about 10 different apps that I use with Final Cut. I'll do one of these live sessions or a tutorial to talk about them. But Final Cut Library Manager certainly is one of them. Canon Raw plugin 2.0 for Final Cut Pro 10.4.9. This was one of the complaints that I saw repeatedly when Final Cut Pro 10.4 came out. I kept seeing it that Canon Raw plugin no longer worked. They put out an update and now it works. I can't tell which button I have there. I think I saw that yesterday. Alex Gollner was the first person I think had that on Twitter. MoType 1.5 introduces 69 new presets and a redesigned UI. Now, I use MoType. MoType was one of the very first third-party plugins that I bought years ago, and this update is free for all users. Al Warner says, am I correct in that using Proxy Workflow, I can create high-tech library on my Mac Pro, then move proxy-only project to MacBook, then edit on the MacBook, then move back to the Mac Pro for output at higher res? That is absolutely correct. You absolutely can do that. So the part of the proxy management, the new workflow that they have is the ability, it's much better. It's much more robust now. Used to be you couldn't link proxies, and if you moved the proxies, you had to do some voodoo in the Finder to get them to work or use a third-party app. I don't know if one even has it, but absolutely correct. So Al Warner says, using Proxy Workflow, I can create a high-quality library, I think he means, not high-tech, on my Mac Pro, then move the proxy-only project to MacBook, to edit on the MacBook, then move back to the Mac Pro. Yes, you can. Let's go back to the one slide there. So here you go. You can make this copy clip to library. Well, in this case, I'm going to make a new library, include media, clip without media. It would be the project or the event without media. And then you'd open that on the Mac Pro. You might have to relink. You might have to relink your media. But there's also some voodoo where you can choose original media if it exists, and it won't recreate the media. It'll just link to the media in the Mac Pro. If I'm not mistaken, I haven't tried that myself, but I think that's the way that works. So absolutely, that's one of the benefits. The curious thing is, for me, These are features that I kind of expected in 10.5. And here they are in 10.4.9, a point update. Kudos to the Final Cut Pro team. Absolutely. Here's my desktop. Everybody can see that. Coffee. For anybody that drinks coffee, you know how important that is. And my drink, my audio interface, Stream Deck for switching scenes, my wireless keyboard that came from my Mac Pro, hotline to Apple. And we might be getting a call today, as a matter of fact. Let me just put that in the center. A little bit OCD when it comes to some of this stuff. So, coffee, take a drink. It's a little bit cold, but it still tastes good. So let's go back. Here we go. Canon RAW plugin 2.0. MoType. I like MoType. It's a very sophisticated particle emitter title generator thingy. So I bought it years ago, 3, 4, 5 years ago, maybe longer. I bought it when it first came out. And they gave it this big update, 69 new presets, redesigned UI for free. Anybody that owns it already. So we have a couple of comments. I like this one. Jason Williams says, how is it that OCD is not in alphabetical order? Exactly. I agree with that. Proxy Workflow used for wanting to work on MacBooks with small built-in SSDs. One of the things that people bring over from legacy workflows is you can't work on your internal SSD. Yes, you can. You absolutely can work on your internal SSD. This Mac Pro SSD goes 3,000 megabits per second. And my MacBook Pro does the same. And you absolutely can work on the internal SSDs now. It used to be with spinning drives. You didn't want to do it, bogged down OS, the app, and all that stuff. I'm not saying it's the best situation, but you certainly can. I mean, on a laptop, sure. If you don't have an external drive, of course you can work on the laptop. Those things are so fast now. So throw that one out the window. Is it optimal? No, I work off external SSDs. I got my Mac Pro over here, or it's the internal SSD. I don't work on my Mac Pro internal SSD. I did get a 2 terabyte, so I have some future proofing there. But I also installed a 2 terabyte NVMe SSD inside the Mac Pro that gets 2,000 or 3,000, and I use that for my storage. I have an external one. Matter of fact, I don't know where it is. I have the external one that I installed in a Thunderbolt 3 SSD that also gets the same kind of speed. So Spencer Lewis says, Final Cut Library Manager just installed. Will test before buying? Absolutely. Absolutely good idea. Test before buying. That's a great way to do it. I love apps. Some apps can't do that, but a lot of them can. Al Warner says, sorry, I meant small-sized SSD. Of course. Of course. Here's Final Cut Pro Radio. Look at that. Somebody's walking in the backyard. That is Jane from Jane's Garden World. She has her own, she's trying to check her garden right now. She does a fantastic job with the garden every year. Tomatoes, cucumbers, sunflowers, other kinds of flowers. This year she grew some lettuce and some stuff. And you can't really see it, but there's a deer fence around. And then to the left all the way to the left of the screen, about in the middle, next to the brick barbecue place, there's 3 cords of oak firewood that I have stacked there under cover for the winter. Oak is my main source of heat. I have 100% backup, heat backup. I have a heat pump, 100% electric, and it has a heat pump and an electric backup. So that's not a problem, but we use firewood for 95% of our heat around here. All right, let's go back. Here's a good tip from Rene Ritchie. Used to work at iMore, but now he's on his own. There's a 90-day free trial for Final Cut Pro 10.49 if you want to check it out, train yourself up. Yes, even if you use the 90-day free trial on the previous version, the whole new free trial is for the new version. You get an additional 90 days according to Rene Ritchie. That's a great, great tip. He had another one. Command-Option-Click to change the anchor connection point for a clip above the magnetic timeline, or hold the tilde key, and drag to move clips in. Here's something interesting. Final Cut Pro Creative Summit is now the Final Cut Pro Global Virtual Summit. What does that mean? Well, we would have, let me just pull that website up. We would have already had to have booked our flights and made hotel reservations if there was going to be an in-person virtual summit for the time being, for now. Is that up? I think is that up? Sorry about that. I had the mute button on. So the virtual summit, FCPX CreativeSummit.com, produced Future Media Conferences in association with Apple. It's always been associated with Apple, and it's said so publicly. Now, what it says is FCPX 2020 is on the way. It doesn't mean Final Cut Pro 10 2020. What it means is Final Cut Pro Creative Summit 2020 is on the way. See photos of how Final Cut Pro 2019 was when the program is updated. Okay. Here's my prediction. The Creative Summit is going to have the normal people doing tutorials. Just like the other, they do a Premiere Creative Summit and a bunch of other ones. It'll probably go on for the same kind of 2 days or 3 days. You'll pay a fee. You'll get to attend these in-person conferences. Let's say who's going to be there. Mark Spencer's going to be there, probably. I'm not saying this as a matter of fact. This is my guess based on the last ones. Nobody's told me anything. Mark Spencer's going to be there. Steve Martin's going to be there. Who in the heck else knows? People that couldn't attend the Creative Summit from overseas, perhaps they're going to be there. Maybe Alex Gallner's going to do a session. I don't know. Ian Anderson certainly will. He's been there. And a bunch of other people are going to do, once again, this is my guess, their normal sessions over a 2 or 3 day period, and you will pay to attend those virtual sessions, instead of attending in person. Now, yes, it's kind of a drag that we can't have. Well, I guess we can. We can have coffee, right? We can still have coffee in the morning, right? Together, maybe before the session. But before those sessions at the Juniper Hotel, which has been the last 3 years, this would have been the 4th year, we'd walk across the plaza and have breakfast together at Le Boulanger, something like that. It's a place that had coffee and it had donuts and it had bagels and all kinds of neat stuff. So you can go over there before the session, sit down with each other and talk, have a group of people. I've been going there for years. One of the things that everywhere I go, I film. I'm always filming. I probably have 10 hours, 12 hours, something like that, of behind the scenes video from the Creative Summit over the years, including when I did live streams in my hotel room each night and sometimes during the day as well. And I'm going to be showing some of those this year since we can't get together, just so people can see what it's like. Some of them you may have seen, other ones you haven't seen because I haven't shown 10 or 12 hours. I have a lot of footage. First one I went to is when I met Brad Olson and a bunch of other people in person for the first time. It was very, very cool. So anyway, here we go. Virtual Summit. What I think is going to happen, they're going to have a virtual summit. People are going to be teaching the usual suspects, maybe a few more that couldn't make it in person for one reason or the other. And now they can. Now they can make it because it's virtual. This is what I'm looking for. It's in association with Apple. Is the Final Cut Pro team from Apple going to make a presentation like they have for the last couple of years? Normally, when we go in person, we go to the Apple HQ and we see a presentation directly from the Final Cut Pro team at Apple HQ, one infinite loop. Last year, we were supposed to go to the Spaceship Campus. That got nixed by Apple, from what I understand, the last week or two before the event. So we got to go to the gift shop, which is still a nice thing to go. But we go to One Infinite Loop to see the Final Cut Pro team, to get a presentation from them. Typically after that, there's a demo room that we go to see any new developments on Final Cut Pro. And then on Saturday, the Final Cut Pro team comes to us in a private meeting that can't be discussed outside of the room. And it's question and answer directly with the Final Cut Pro team. Is Apple going to do that this year somehow with the Creative Summit? Okay, 10.4.9 came out the last couple of days of August. So that gives September, October, November, which it typically is, 3 months. You think they might have something to show us at that point? Maybe. Maybe a preview of 10.5 or whatever the next version's going to be. Very, very possible. If Apple presents, I'm going to presume they have something new to show us. At that point, 10.4.9 will be 2.5 months old, 3 months old. So just showing us that again, I think they can do better. I think they can do better than that. Oh, that's interesting. There we go. Just in that a little bit. So I'll be curious. You know, I'm a trainer myself, so I'm a Final Cut Pro certified trainer. I teach these classes that they have at the summit. Although I go to a few of them. There's a few of them that I like. Patrick Southern will probably be doing one. I'll go to his. I'll go to my friend Ian Anderson's. If Alex Gollner's doing one, I'll stop in there. So I'll see what happens with the new version. But I'm mostly interested is if Apple presents. If Apple's going to present, then I'm very, very interested in seeing what they're doing. Do you think they will show some 10.5 features? Well, 10.4.9 came out. I'm expecting 10.4.10 coming out to be a minor bug fix. But so 10.5 is still on the horizon, right? Let's check something out here. Here we go. Go to FCPRadio.com and the counter is here. Go on to the main page. Final Cut Pro 10.4 is 32 plus months old. It's almost 33 months old. But it got a shot of adrenaline 10.4.9. Major shot of adrenaline. Major shot. It's not a small thing, but it still is 32 months, almost 33 months. So 10.5 it's got to be huge. Now, I have no idea. Since 10.4.9 came out, which is what I was asking for, just give us what you got. No idea when 10.5 is going to come out. I just don't. I mean, if Apple presents at the Creative Summit, they might be showing a preview of it. Except for last year, I've been to 3 Creative Summits, or 4. I can't keep track. 3 or 4. Never had to sign an NDA, except for last year. Last year was a special case. And I can't talk about anything other than it was a special case. So I don't know. The other times, 10.4, they showed us 10.4.4. It was able to be talked about immediately when they showed it to us. It was public at that point. 10.3 was one of them. And you could talk about it. So if Apple presents at this FCPX Creative Summit, hopefully it will be public. We'll be able to talk about it right after that. That's what I'm looking forward to this fall. Want to see what it happens. I hope it'll run on a Mac Pro 2013. Is 10.4.9 running on a Mac Pro 2013? I don't know. I have a 2019 Mac Pro and a 2019 MacBook Pro. I am waiting for the new MacBook Pro, the ARM version, after I see some real-world tests. I'm not going to just buy one off. So he says, yes, 10.4.9 is working. I suspect you'll be okay. Brett Williams says 10.4.4 was a huge update as well. Absolutely was. There's only 2 huge updates in 10.4 as far as I'm concerned. 10.4.4 was one. 10.4.9 was one. The one they had last year, 10.4.7, yes, I understand it could have been a lot of work and they put Metal 2 in it. I understand that, but it's not very... There was a couple little things. That's a minor one compared to 10.4 and 10.4.9. Absolutely. In association with Apple, FCPX Global Virtual Summit. There's my keyboard down here peeking underneath in my picture. Usually I have something different. So anyway, look forward to seeing what's going on with that. It should be out. Since it's a virtual, they don't have to make any announcement till a month before. Maybe I expect an announcement in September at some point, and we'll see what happens. But it's going to have normal people presenting, the normal presenters. I don't present there because I'm running around taking video, I'm running around taking pictures, I'm running around interviewing people. I'm doing all the behind the scenes kind of things that you're going to see this year. I'm going to show you Armadillo Willie's that doesn't exist anymore. I have videotape of that. I have videotape from the first year I was there. I have videotape. I did live streams from my hotel room. Steve Martin came up, Bill Davis came up, a bunch of people came up, Ian Anderson came up, and we had live stream from my hotel room. I'm going to show you all of that stuff this year. I'm going to be showing the live videos that I've collected, the hours and hours of live videos I collected, concurrent with the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit. So once again, they said the FCPX 2020 is on the way. It doesn't mean Final Cut Pro 10, it just means the summit. They're just doing a shortcut. So our friend Patrick Southern has a survey over at surveymonkey.com, editing file transfers, that you can go and fill out for Final Cut Pro on your edit suite to help Frame.io. Now let's get to some of the bugs in Final Cut Pro 10.4, because some of these are real. Some of them might be, pull this down here. Some of these might be, pull that up, user error, but some of them certainly have to be bugs, right? How many people have gotten that? So this is I had a crash. Final Cut Pro quit unexpectedly. Yes, it quit unexpectedly. I've typed in here, where is Final Cut Pro 10.4.10 to squash these bugs? I've got the bugs myself. So they do exist. I'm not saying all of these bugs are bugs of Final Cut Pro. Some of them could be user error. Some of them could be third-party plugins. Don't know. All right? All right. So my friend Bradley Olson texted me this one. I said, have you had any bugs? He said, one, when I hit the playhead, it jumps to the very end of the timeline. I've had to restart my computer a couple of times because of that. Not even relaunching Final Cut Pro 10 corrected it. I was using the color wheels both times it happened. I remember something similar happening with the color wheels in 10.4, but it would jump around the timeline as I made adjustments. So there's one. And he says he's seen this multiple times. I haven't seen anybody else report this, but there's one. Motion VXF. Seems like Apple changed something in 10.4.9 and causes missing media for all plugin developers. Here's great info if you are having issues with that update. There's another. These are reliable, very reliable ones. I don't know if that's been fixed yet. Yari says he has updated all his plugins and he doesn't have the problems, but we'll see. But anyway, this is another issue. So let's go. Nathan McAvoy gets the comment of the day. Too bad we can't even submit feedback about 10.4.9. One of the things that I did, let me just pull this up. One of the things that I did was submit that very feedback. Over at FCPX.tv, I have a master list of Final Cut Pro 10.4.9 articles and tutorials. Right at the top of the page here, submit bug reports or feedback to the Final Cut Pro team here. Let's go there. What he's talking about is this. What version of Final Cut Pro? 10.4.9's not there. You can't submit feedback to 10.4.9. So what I did, I just typed it in here. I typed it right in there and I said, please include 10.4.9 in the drop-down menu for the version. It's been over a week and it's still not there. That's what he's talking about. That's a comment, the comment of the week of today. That's a great comment. So hopefully they'll get that fixed. But anyway, Nathan says, that's the number one 10.4.9 bug. Yes, it is. You would have think they would have updated that right off the bat, but they didn't do it, so it's still not. As a matter of fact, I will contact. You know what? Hello? Yes. We have a bug to report for Final Cut Pro 10.4.9. You have to put 10.4.9 in the drop-down menu. No, it's not there. No, it's not there. You just have 10.4.8. It's been like a week, 10 days now. So get 10.4.9 in the drop-down menu so people can report the bugs for 10.4.9. The person that does that is on vacation? Well, do they have a backup? They should have a backup, right? Yeah, of course they should. Apple is going to present at the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit? Is that right? What are they going to... Oh, really? Well, that's interesting. Apple is going to present at the Final Cut Pro 10.4, Final Cut Pro Creative Summit, and you're going to show... I can't say it. Okay. Very good. But get 10.4.9 on the feedback page, please. If the person's on vacation, somebody else can do it. All right. Thanks. Thanks a lot. Talk to you next time. Well, there you go. Our anonymous source, I can't tell you who it is, we told him, thanks to you guys, somebody brought it up. I forgot about it, that 10.4.9's not on the page. So Nathan says, sorry they fired that guy for putting 10.4.8 in too early. There you go. Maybe they did. I hope not. They shouldn't be firing anybody at this stage of the game. There is Final Cut Pro Radio HQ. Now this fall, probably in about a month or so, there's going to be lots and lots of leaves out there. I will be gathering up leaves for weeks and weeks and weeks. I have 30 oak trees, 100-foot oak trees, and there's tons, literally tons of oak leaves that come down that I gotta keep on gathering them up, and then taking them out. I have a service that picks them up. They take 30 bags, brown bags or trash cans, each pickup, but they only come twice a month. So I have 60 bags a month, and then anything over that I got to put on my trailer and take to the dump myself. They don't charge you for leaves up there, so that's pretty cool. Nathan McAvoy says, where are you located? I'm on the east coast of the USA, just north, 50 miles north of Washington, D.C., and a little bit northwest of Baltimore. The 10.5 guy is sweating bullets now, must be finished before the end of October. The last couple of years, the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit's been in November. First week, second week, November. I expect it to be the same this year, but the first, second week of November. I don't think it's going to be at the end of October, although it could be. It's virtual. So, it'll probably be the same kind of a thing, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But like I said, I'm interested in the announcement that Final Cut Pro team is going to be there. We got a call that said they were. We'll see if that person is accurate. A little bit of carbonation there. So anyway, let's get back to our slideshow. I don't think that the 10.5 guy is in any trouble, because I didn't say that 10.5 is going to be out. I'm just saying there's something interesting I think will be happening around the Creative Summit time. So we'll see what happens. Back to bugs. So Simon says, after updating, talks about how to, this article he has talks about how to take care of that specific bug. Here's something that was posted on Twitter this morning that I've seen before. Fix rendering error 1008 in Final Cut Pro 10. And at Apple support posted this link. If sharing your Final Cut Pro project file fails with Siri came on for some reason. I found this on. I must have said something that triggered Siri. If sharing your Final Cut Pro project fails and video rendering error 1008 appears, re-import the clip that's causing the error. So there's a little tip. Here we have, hey, so I just switched. These are things that I've seen on Twitter and on Facebook. I just did screen grabs and brought them in here for everybody. So I switched my project from Proxy to Optimize, and now I'm getting the dreaded red screen with missing plugin message on some of my media. Any tips? Thanks in advance. One of the things that I've seen people are getting with the red screen is they forget to go to the view menu and switch to original media, optimized media, proxy media. If that's not set right, you'll get the red screen. Your clips will be offline. So make sure that you get that. Now, one of the best new things about Final Cut Pro, you can now have a mixed media timeline. You can now have proxy media, and you can have original media on the same timeline, which is great. Now, if you go to export that, you'll get a pop-up warning, hey, you're trying to export proxy. You should switch over to optimized media or original media. I shoot with the GH5. As a matter of fact, it's right here. This is my GH5. I've got a wooden handle. This is one of my lenses. I have about, a bunch of different lenses. I really like this camera a lot. This is my favorite camera. This is the audio interface that it has. It takes 2 XLR connections. I have a 1/8-inch mini adapter to XLR so I can plug a different kind of microphone in. It's got a shoe on top. This does not connect with an 1/8-inch plug-in into here to the side. This connects electronically through an electronic hot shoe. If you can see that or not. That's popped up. So this is my main camera at this point, my GH5. I just love this thing. It shoots 5K internally, and 6K if you have an anamorphic lens on it. So if you have an anamorphic lens, you can shoot 6K inside this camera. This camera is 3.5 years old, and it shoots 5K internally, 6K internally. That's incredible. It also shoots 10-bit, 422 internally. This is internally. It has a full-size, it's a great features, full-size HDMI port. But anyway, I'm waiting for the GH6, or I'm going to get the Sony A7S III because of its low light performance. We'll see how that works. I'm not in any hurry. I have the GH5. I'm recording on the GH4, which is my webcam that you're watching on. And I have my iPhone. Let me just show you one thing. This cable is a fantastic cable. It's a cable that came with the Mac Pro. It's a very nice, high-quality cable. Really like it. But this is my iPhone 11 Pro Max. I'll be looking at the 12 when it comes out if it has video features. The only reason I update my phone is for video features. I don't care about 5G. I don't care about that. It'll be nice if it comes out with 5G. That's fine. I don't know what 5G I have presently around here, but so I have three 4K cameras. 3. I don't need another camera right now. The GH5 is fine for important stuff. My phone is always with me to take pictures and stuff, so I don't need one. If I get one, if the GH6 comes out and it's cool, has some neat new features, which I'm sure it will, I'll take a look at that. Or I would, right now, I'd probably buy the Sony A7S III and just switch everything up, lenses and all that. Missing plugins. Once again, I don't know if this is the person's fault or something else going on there. So Fox Mahoney, who's a friend of mine on Twitter, color pickers are broken in Final Cut Pro 10.4.9, my project, blah, blah, blah. He says the color pickers are broken, and he also says it's been reported that the sensor effect in Final Cut Pro 10.49 has also broken. Cannot keyframe animation. In the meantime, you can download a free working substitute here at his website, fcpxtemplates.com, product/sensor. It's a combination bug report and a tip. You can download a version of sensor that does work. Anyone seeing color issues with new Final Cut Pro 10.4? Anyone else having annoying Blaze tool issues in 10.4.9? My blade tool is broken and often won't go where I need it to. Once again, I don't know if these are user error or third party or what the heck's going on. It's a combination. It's a combination user error, third party plugins, and bugs. But I expect 10.4.10 will be out a couple weeks, 2-3 weeks. We should have it. Smart Sound now appears to be broken in 10.4.9, and Color Finale sometimes stops working till another process has completed. There's some more bugs. Nathan McAvoy says, I've been having an issue with the curves picker. The picker won't revert back to the arrow after. There you go. There's another bug report. I've had browser panel refuse to open or close without restarting Final Cut Pro 10. I've had to restart Final Cut Pro 10 myself a few times with this 10.4.9. So here's the deal. We don't want to discourage the team from putting out a version of Final Cut that has these great new features. Absolutely. I'd rather live with the new features and live with some bugs than not get the new features and have them try to make it bug-free. These new features are huge in Final Cut Pro 10. There's plenty of tutorials. There's a dozen different places you can go get the tutorials. I like a couple of them specifically. I mean, Ripple trainings are really good. Steve Martin does a great job. Mark Spencer does a great job. They always have it ready to go. Post Professionals had a good one. Felipe Baez had another good one. These are all good tutorials you can watch. There's a bunch of them on YouTube. Just search for Final Cut Pro 10.4.9. But are there bugs? Yes. Their beta team is smaller, so they might not have picked these bugs up, or they might have said, we're going to put it out now. We're going to work on these bugs and squash them with 10.4.10. That's my recommendation. That's my projection. I edited a week-long C300 project, flawless on my system. Excellent. Just finished a project and it's all rendered on the time limit. Every time I open a project, it renders from beginning again. Is there a way I can stop that from happening, or is it a bug? Why don't you turn rendering off? That's what I do. I don't auto render in system preferences, and not in system preferences, in Final Cut Pro preferences. Turn rendering off so it doesn't render, and you can just render if you want to when you're ready to output or render sections. But no, I don't render. I never render, and I'm using H.264 GH5 4K files. Never render. The only time is if I have a section I need to render to see how it may be a color correction or something more complicated, I'll maybe render that one section, but I never pre-render. So turn it off. It's in the preferences, rendering, turn it off. I don't need it. If you need it on an older machine, I don't know, use Proxy. Agreed, it still doesn't crash constantly like Premiere. So like I said, thanks for putting the update out. That's number one. I want the update. I wanted the update. I want it. The fact that there's some bugs, okay. That's what I said during the summer. I said, give us what you got. Let us work out the bugs that are there. Let us work them out, and we'll report back to you. That's exactly the process that has happened. They gave us the update. We're working out the bugs. Right? That's what you want. You don't want them holding on till it's perfect. We'd never get a copy. All right, what else do we have here? Smart Sound, we talked about that one. Interesting anomaly. It just came up against in 10.4.9 when working in a compound clip. The share menu is not available anymore. Seems that sharing only works from projects now. That is a real pain. That is a real pain if that's true. This is another one's red clip missing stuff. Nathan McAvoy says, I've had rendering off for years too, but I do see an argument for it now because we see the GPU being used heavily during rendering, but not export. But isn't this file that you export rendered? Doesn't it? You mean it takes you longer to export? Yes, that's fine. I guess what I'm saying is if you want to render, that's completely up to you. I don't render, pre-render before export. I just export, but I have a Mac Pro, okay? I got a 16-core Mac Pro, so I'm not particularly worried about it. But if rendering uses the GPU, what does he say that uses the GPU more? That's completely a good point, Nathan. See the GPU being used heavily during rendering, but not export. Okay, that is a good point. That's an excellent, excellent point. Thank you for that tip. So in that case, turn rendering off while you're working. You don't need to render every time you make a change and it renders and creates render files. Before you export, turn rendering, just render everything. You can select, there's an option in Final Cut Pro up in the menu, render selection or render timeline or something like that. It just renders everything. But you don't need it on when you're constantly working. I just don't need it. I mean, if I'm doing a multicam clip, I'm going to do that in proxy mode anyway. Right? Yes, I am going to do it in proxy mode anyway. So I think that's just about it. I'm confused. Final Cut Pro changed something with the way it handles third-party plugins. Well, I think we've had enough of that. One of the three things. Third-party plugin problem, they haven't updated. Final Cut Pro genuine bug, which if you report that, and user error. People are making mistakes and making assumptions. So let's go back here. Final Cut Pro FCPX.tv. Once again, right at the top of the page, there's a link here. Send your request, bug reports, and feedback to the Final Cut Pro team here. If you report on Final Cut Pro 10.4.9, type it in here. So they know, because the version that they have is only 10.4.8. There you go. That's one of the things you want to do. But once again, FCPX.tv. Look, I have over 24 articles, tutorials, links for you, which is this is what I do. This is based on the Ken Stone website. I love Ken Stone. He had the best, hands down, the best website for Final Cut Pro ever. Even though he didn't update it for 10, but he had it for 7. But all these links are for articles and tutorials, and I'll keep updating this. Right now, there's over 24. The best Final Cut Pro 10.4.9 articles and tutorials. The best. That's what you're getting here. So here we got another comment. I do see HEVC exporting a lot faster with 10.4.9, even on my older machine without T2. I have T2 in the Mac Pro, not exporting to HEVC, but rather from HEVC. Okay. And playing back HEVC smoother too. That makes complete sense, playing back HEVC. So how many of you are using LTO tape? I'm considering getting LTO tape. LTO 9 is coming out this fall. The decks are really expensive. I'm not sure why they're so expensive, but it's like doubled speed-wise. So let's see what we have here. Playing back HEVC is smoother too. I shoot sometimes HEVC, sometimes I shoot H.264 right now. Bugs seem to be a tad random. One's mentioning bugs, something that's popping consistently. LTO is very expensive. The deck is very expensive. The actual tapes are comparable to, they're actually less expensive than hard drives. And they're, of course, much more reliable. They last for 30 years, and the speed's getting up there. And they have Thunderbolt 3 decks now. I might, at some point I might make the transition to LTO. I haven't yet. I am looking at getting a new RAID system. Let's check and see what's going on Twitter, if there's anything going on. So Motion 3D Tracker by Motion VXF is coming up. I don't do any 3D tracking, but it looks pretty cool. I don't see anything else. So everybody I like Big Sur as well, but it has 4 apps that don't work on it yet. So I'm not going to use, I have the beta. I have a dual boot system. I kept my Mac Pro internal drive pristine. It's on Catalina by itself. And I put Big Sur on either an external SSD, Thunderbolt 3 SSD, NVMe SSD, or I have a second internal 2 terabyte SSD. I made they don't call it partition anymore. They call it something else, a volume or something. And I have the dual boot so I can go back and forth. And I like Big Sur a lot myself, but there's apps that I just can't use. I don't think Ecamm, the app that I'm using right now, is ready for Big Sur. That they haven't announced that they've got a version yet. So should read. No one mentioning the same bugs. They seem a tad random. Sorry about typing errors. I've seen some of the same bugs reported, but not all of them. You're absolutely correct. Not all of them. Just to note, I don't see the issue she was having with sharing out compound clips. There you go. There you go. He's not seeing, Nathan McAvoy's not seeing those, so something else is happening. I mean, I had a crash or two. I had to restart Final Cut Pro a couple of times when weird things happened. That was on Catalina. I've used it on Big Sur, and I like it on Big Sur. Absolutely. So when Big Sur comes out, partition is different than a volume. Yes, I realize that. You can partition a volume, not volume or partition. There you go. Thank you, Jason. I didn't know the exact technicalities, but that's what you get. Final Cut Pro Radio HQ backyard. I have 1.5 acres. There's a garden in the back. There's firewood on the left. There's a There's a big brick barbecue there. I don't use that. I have a stainless steel barbecue closer to the house. That's been there ever since we bought the place. Bought it in 2000. Jason Williams says, if a volume is on a partition, you can volume that. Can you summarize the common bugs? Well, there were a lot of bugs. I'm just going to fix this because it's bugging the heck out of me. There were a lot of bugs. That's weird. I'll show you what I'm doing. My Stream Deck, it only has